Welcome to Childcare Licensing's online training series. My name is Kat Martinez, and I'm a trainer with Childcare Licensing. This training is all about forms, documents, and records for licensed family providers. Our objectives for this training are that participants will know how to find documents and forms and know how to fill them out. Participants will know how long documents need to be kept on site and how to prepare documents for an annual announced inspection. Forms and documents and where to find them. On our website, under childcarelicensing.utah.gov, you'll click on Child Care Providers. A drop-down menu will appear. Select Forms and Documents. That will take you here to Forms and Documents for Child Care Providers. You will need to scroll down to find your facility type. You can see those listed on the far left. The other three columns of Forms and Documents include required forms and documents. Those are where you have to use our form or document. Next is sample forms and documents. That's where you can create your own if you prefer, but we provide for technical assistance an example of what can be used. And finally, on the far right, are inspection checklists. Sometimes when your inspection takes place may be a surprise for an unannounced inspection, but you should never be surprised by what your licensor is looking for. So you have access to the same checklist your licensor uses. Another great tool is our appendix. You can find that under Interpretation Manual by sections, and it's there on the bottom right corner. All of the forms and documents we're going to go over in this training are listed out, are detailed out in list form in the appendix. This is what the appendix looks like, and again is a great tool for preparing for your annual announced inspection. Let's start with required forms and documents. That includes the department's parent guide and facility license. You need to post an unaltered child care license in a visible location. This will be emailed to you, and you must print it out yourself and post it. The provider shall post a current copy of the department's parent guide at the facility for parent review during business hours, or give a current copy to each parent so you can choose what works best for you. Sample forms and documents include incident, accident, and injury form, admission agreement and health assessment, emergency preparedness response and recovery, immunizations, daily schedule, emergency substitute, and menus. Accident, incident, or injury report. The provider shall give parents a written report of every incident, accident, or injury involving their child. If a child is injured while in care and received medical attention, or for a child fatality, the provider shall notify the department. And again, you are welcome to create your own form if you prefer, but ours is available as technical assistance. Next up, the admission agreement and health assessment. The provider shall ensure that each parent completes an admission and health assessment form for their child before the child is admitted into the child care program. The admission and health assessment form shall include the required information, and that includes the child's name, child's date of birth, parent's name, address, and phone number, including a daytime phone number, the names of people authorized by the parent to pick up the child, name, address, and phone number of a person to be contacted in case of an emergency if the provider is unable to contact the parent. If available, the name, address, and phone number of an out-of-area emergency contact person for the child, current emergency medical treatment and emergency transportation releases with the parent signature, any known allergies of the child, any known food sensitivities, any chronic medical conditions the child may have, instructions for special or non-routine daily health care of the child, current ongoing medications the child may be taking, and any other special health instructions for the caregiver. The provider shall have a written emergency preparedness response and recovery plan. that includes procedures for evacuation, relocation, shelter in place, lockdown, communication with and reunification of families, and continuity of operations. Includes procedures for accommodations for infants and toddlers, children with disabilities, and children with chronic medical conditions. Is available for review by parents, staff, and the department during business hours, and is followed if an emergency happens, unless otherwise instructed by emergency personnel. For immunizations, before admitting any child younger than 5 years of age into the child care program, including the provider's and employee's own children, the provider shall obtain the following documentation from the child's parent: current immunizations as required by Utah law, a medical schedule to receive required immunizations, a legal exemption, or a 90-day exemption for children who are homeless. Options for documenting immunizations. You may use the official Utah School Immunization Record, or also known as the pink card or the pink form, accepting any immunization record provided by a licensed physician, registered nurse, or public health official, and transferring the information to that pink form, which can be printed off online and does not need to actually be on pink paper. Or you can keep immunization records in the Utah Statewide Immunization Information System, or USIS. For children 2 years old and older, the provider shall post a daily schedule that includes activities that support children's healthy development. And that's at least including meals and snacks, nap or rest time, and outdoor playtime. So that's when they eat, when they sleep, and when they go outside. Emergency substitute. Before leaving an emergency substitute, the provider shall obtain a signed written background statement from the emergency substitute stating that the emergency substitute has not been convicted of a felony, has not been convicted of a crime against a person, is not listed on the state or national sex offender registry, and is not being investigated for abuse or neglect by any federal, state, or local government agency. And this is not for a regular substitute who is background checked, who's had their pre-service training, and who you have scheduled to come at certain times. This is for a substitute that comes in an emergency, something unforeseen. If food for children's meals or snacks is supplied by the provider shall ensure that the provider uses the CACFP meal pattern requirements, the standard department approved menus, or menus approved by a registered dietitian, and that dietitian approval is noted and dated on the menus and current within the past 5 years. And the current week's menu is posted for review by parents and the department. So this is a look at the menu we provide on our website. But again, you have other options. For emergency drills, fire drills must be conducted quarterly or once every 3 months, and disaster drills annually or one per year. Licensed family providers must hold fire drills and document them with the date and day of week, time, number of children present, individual supervising the drill, the length of time to evacuate, and problems encountered and remediation. That's for fire drills. For disaster drills, you're going to check the type of disaster you've chosen to prepare for this particular drill, the date and day of week, the time, the number of children present, the person supervising the drill, how long it took to evacuate if necessary for this particular drill, any problems encountered, and remediation. For medication, this is our medication release form from our website, and the provider must keep a 6-week record of medication, permission, and administration forms on site for review by the department. You can use our form here, or if you create your own, just make sure all of this information is included on your form. Or if you choose to enter it into an app of some sort, again, that this information is included for the medication administration record, the date, time, dosage, who administered the medication, any adverse reactions, and any errors. The provider shall post the home street address and emergency numbers, including fire, police, and poison control. You can use our form here or create your own. You need sign in and out records. These could be daily, weekly, or monthly sheets, whatever you prefer. Personnel records. Keep a record of the date of initial employment or association with anyone who works at your facility, first aid and CPR certification for those that need it, and days and hours worked. Logging training. The provider shall keep documentation of each individual's pre-service training on site for review by the department and shall ensure that the documentation includes at least the following: training topics, date of the training, and total hours or minutes of the training. For annual training, the provider shall ensure that at least half of the required annual training is interactive. This could mean an in-person training or an online training where you were able to communicate with the trainer in real time or took a quiz to certify understanding of the content taught. Records, what to keep and for how long. Incident accident reports, sign in and out forms, menus, medication records, emergency substitute form, all should be kept on site for 6 weeks. 6 weeks is how far back childcare licensing can do a complaint investigation. So 6 weeks is the magic number for records for childcare licensing. Admission and health assessment, immunization records, fire and disaster drills, daily schedule, training hours, emergency preparedness response and recovery, copy of first aid and CPR certifications, should all be available whenever the facility is operating year-round and will be checked at your annual announced inspection. But if you close or if a child has left the facility and is no longer a child in care, then you need to keep those records on site for 6 weeks after having closed or after the child leaves. Checklist. Know what your licensor is looking for. This is what the licensed family unannounced inspection checklist looks like. Again, it's available on our website, childcarelicensing.utah.gov, under Forms and Documents in the far right column. Licensors will listen to your answers to their questions. For example, if you offer off-site activities, they will ask you, where are the first aid supplies for the facility and field trips? If you use caregivers who are 16 or 17 years old in the caregiver to child ratio, you will be asked, how do you ensure there is always another caregiver who's at least 18 years old with them on the premises? And the licensor will look for items that pose a danger to children, such as choking hazards, sharp objects, and chemicals, and observe the number of children in care and ensure there are enough caregivers to supervise those children. There are if items, like trampolines, transportation, animals, or alternate sleep permission. These things may not come up for you, but if they do, then these forms and documents apply to you. If you have a trampoline, and if children in care use the trampoline, you will need trampoline permission form signed by the parent or guardian. If the provider transports children, you need written permission from the parent or guardian. If the provider has cats, dogs, or ferrets, vaccination records must be kept on site.